It's Tuesday, May 26, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. The sports landscape has certainly changed over the last couple of months, but as online events become more common, there's now a scandal breaking out over alleged e-racing cheating. And the launch is officially a go, weather depending, of course. SpaceX will send a Falcon 9 rocket with a two-person Dragon crew capsule into space tomorrow, bringing astronauts to the ISS. Plus, we'll have our own Drew Prindle stopping by for another edition of Awesome Tech You Can't Buy Yet, featuring interesting Kickstarter projects such as the 9-bot Kickstarter Air T15. There we go. And we've got some great guests on the show today with YouTubers Danny Padilla and Mason Sperling. Plus, from the University of Washington, Professor Rovi Branson will discuss education during the pandemic. All of that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Yes, hello everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you so much for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. So hit subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Join in the conversations that we could have. Hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend, but let's catch you up on what's going on in the world of technology. And certainly for a lot of iPhone and iPad users over the weekend, you found some sources of frustration with your designated platform there because of some warnings that you were getting about downloading things. So this is a report that's coming out today just about things that have happened over the weekend. On Sunday, it sounds like there were a number of reports coming out from people who were being forced to update a number of apps or even purchase an app that was not something that they needed to purchase. So this all stems from a problem with Apple's family sharing system. And what this bug would do is that it would in part say this app is no longer shared with you, and then try to get you to buy the app from the App Store in order to still use it. And then it also forced updates on a number of different apps that didn't need updates apparently. And so this was a problem that they were having. They did say that they have been able to fix this. For everybody who experienced that over the weekend, this is something where they did update this. This all comes back to the new iOS that they rolled out and just some different issues that have happened with that. So it just shows that no matter how big the tech company, no matter how many people they have working on it, they can still have issues that happen. And even for somebody like Apple, that's something that occurred. So for those of you who did find that source of frustration, well, it does look like it's updated. So you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. Just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention in case you weren't aware the fix was out there for that right now. Continuing on here with trending news, this is a story that's breaking today, and it has to do with scandal in the e-racing world. So let me explain what's going on. Now, naturally, like a lot of different sports organizations, a lot of things have gone online, and for Formula E, that is also the thing. Now, I want to explain what Formula E is actually, the E stands for electric vehicles. So it's actually a racing league, an actual physical racing league of electric vehicles that goes on. But naturally, like a lot of other things, like I said, they have something that is being called the Home Challenge, where racers are racing from home in an e-racing league for Formula E. I know it gets kind of confusing there, but they're racing online. And with that, they had a huge race over this weekend. But during it, there was an Audi driver by the name of Daniel Abbott who seemed to be doing really well. And a lot of the other racers were questioning how this person had only never finished, I believe, into the top 15 before, and all of a sudden he was just dominating and winning. Well, they all are connected via Zoom, and so you can see the drivers, but his mysteriously was kind of shadowed out where you couldn't really see his face. And they asked them to verify. One of the other racers said, "You better check and see that that's actually him racing." Turns out it was not. So what this guy had done, what Daniel Abbott had done, is that he actually had a professional e-racer join and play for him in order to win this race, and he did end up winning it. And that is something that he was fined. Now he's been fined $10,000 for using a ringer, or 10,000 euros. Excuse me. He finished. Became qualified in second place and went on to take third. He took third in this home challenge. But nonetheless, he was using a fake racer. So he had somebody else log in to his Zoom account. They actually had to do some detective work with IP addresses to figure out that it wasn't him that was actually driving this thing. It turned out it was an actual 18-year-old pro gamer, Lorenz Herzing, who was doing it, who was competing for him. And that is what is going on right there. So just wanted to bring that to attention. I thought that was kind of interesting just in this day and age if we see a lot of athletics going online. People are still finding out ways to game the system. So that is what this guy did. He used somebody else. He used a ringer in a Zoom account to cheat for him. So anyway, trending news story right there for you as we continue on here with more trending news from digitaltrends.com. Let's talk about VR. A lot of people turning to virtual reality right now as we're certainly social distancing and things are different right now in this world. Well, there's a new version that's going to be coming out. It's from a company called XR Space, and it's from one of the former head of HTC, Peter Chow. So this is going to be a pretty unique system that they're launching. It's a standalone VR headset, but with this, it's got, well, the headset's called the MOVA. It's also going to be having with it, part of what will come with it is 5G support, a hand tracking interface, and an expansive virtual world called Manova. And that's kind of the key thing. So Manova, they're envisioning as a new place for people to hang out, almost like what Second Life used to be, what people are maybe doing in Animal Crossing or Minecraft, excuse me. This is something that they would be doing with this. So this world would have public and private places you can go. You can own property within it. You can watch movies together in it. You can watch sporting matches in it, and you can also socialize and do all kinds of different things. So that's what they're looking to do. They're going to have neighborhood-like areas called a city center where people can meet up with friends. There's also fitness classes and health activities, and all this is going to be encompassed in this one VR world that they're creating with XR Space. It's certainly a unique look at it and kind of encompasses a lot of what people thought virtual reality would become, kind of an evolution of that idea of socializing online in this virtual world. But they're launching that one, and that's coming out later on this year. So certainly an interesting one. We've got a great interview up at digitaltrends.com right now. Our own Andy Boxall spoke with Peter Chow about this, just kind of got a little bit more in depth on what it is that they're planning. But I'm curious what people think about that. Is that something that you would want to do, is to join kind of a virtual world like that, as we're all, social distancing or working from home or working in different circumstances than we're used to? Maybe that's something that could be pretty popular. So you can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. Let's talk about a couple of things that are coming up here within the next 24 hours. So first off, HBO Max, the newest entrant into the streaming wars, will go live tonight at midnight, and this is HBO Max's expanded giant service that they're launching. So the streaming service will reportedly have 10,000 hours of content at its launch. They said that you can expect to find favorites like Friends, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Big Bang Theory, South Park, Doctor Who, Adventure Time, The O.C., and a whole bunch of other ones, and plus, of course, all of HBO's original programming, which is already on there. Veep, Game of Thrones, Chernobyl, Barry, goes on and on. So this is all part of their expanded offer into this. Now, of course, since they are now part of Warner Media, they have access to a lot of different content, a lot of things, a lot of movies, a lot of television shows, and that's what they're banking on. They're also going to have some originals, some new originals that are launching just for the service. Looks like they'll have 6 at the launch, including one that's an anthology series called Love Life, starring Anna Kendrick, where it follows one character through a new romantic relationship each episode. And then there's also going to be some other ones that will be coming out, and throughout this summer they'll have more original programming come out. But a lot of content on there. Is it something that everybody wants? Well, that's what we're going to have to find out. It does cost $15 a month, and there are certain ways that if you already subscribe to HBO where you'll be able to just roll right into it, but it depends on what platform you're on, and it's honestly kind of confusing. I would suggest going to digitaltrends.com to see if you already subscribe, if it's something that will just roll over. I subscribed through Prime Video, just for example, and it doesn't look like that's going to transfer over, so you need to cancel it and then resubscribe in order to get it. A little bit of a confusing launch, but nonetheless, a lot of content that's coming out on there, so certainly a big entrant into that. You can read more about that at digitaltrends.com. And one other big trending story, and certainly this is something that we're going to be talking a lot about today and tomorrow, to be honest, when this happens, and that is the SpaceX launch, returning humans to space from American soil, the first time since 2011, and the first time with a private entity launching humans to the International Space Station. So this is going to be happening tomorrow. They got the go-ahead. As long as weather permitting, there's always a chance something could happen with that. It reportedly was raining a lot on Monday, but it looks like so far so good that the launch will go ahead on Wednesday of this week. That's May 27th, the highly anticipated launch. There's the 2 astronauts who are going to be going up in their SpaceX spacesuits. So the nicely, sleekly designed SpaceX spacesuits looks a lot different than what those traditional spacesuits look like. A couple of things with this. So the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon, they also released a video showcasing just where they're going to be launching, which is the Launch Complex 39A. But that is the same place the Saturn V rocket sent people to the moon originally. So for that first original moon landing, that is where they launched from. It's also where the final space shuttle mission took off. And of coincidence, a little bit of trivia for you, the pilot of that last space shuttle launch in 2011 was Doug Hurley, who was also the pilot and space commander for this launch. So returning there, Doug Hurley will be back along with Bob Behnken, who are the two astronauts that are going up. They're actually going to roll out to the launch in a Tesla X. It's a whole lot of really exciting stuff that's going on. I could talk about it for hours, I know, but there's a lot of coverage at digitaltrends.com, and we'll be talking a lot about that tomorrow, but something you should definitely be aware of. So follow along with that, like I said, right there at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
The product of the day for you is the Epson Home Cinema 2100. It's the 1080p 3 LCD projector. And this is something that a lot of people, as we're watching a movie and watching content from home, a projector is a nice way to take it outside. Watch it out back, or you can watch it inside too. But it does have, and you can expand an image size up to 300 inches. You can play games on it, watch movies, whatever you're streaming. It's got a built-in 10-watt speaker, so it's got kind of the complete setup. You can also, of course, hook it up to something else. It's got 2 HDMI ports, so if you want a Blu-ray player or a video game console, like I said, you want to play some Assassin's Creed outside, go do that, or Fortnite, whatever you play. It's got 2,500 lumens of color brightness and 2,500 lumens of white brightness, so that way it can brighten up no matter what the lighting is outside. That's really important when you have a projector outside, is to have plenty of lumens. Lumens are good. And like I said, the dual HDMI ports, huge thing. Goes from a 29.9 inch screen to 300 inches. So wherever you want to set it up, you can actually cater it to that room, but pretty cool. And what you want to do is follow that link that's right there. So that link right below me. So type that in or click on it, whatever platform you're watching on. That way you can follow through and take advantage of the deal. And it is quite a deal, actually, when you take a look at it. Again, this is the Epson Home Cinema. And right now it is on sale. So this is from Best Buy. It's normally $849.99. It's $300 off for $549.99. So you save $300 if you click that link right now. But definitely worth checking out. So go there now to digitaltrends.com. All right, we need to get to a break because we've got great guests joining us. And coming up next, we're actually going to be talking about the future of ride sharing. Not only with artificial intelligence maybe driving it, but also where are we going right now? How's the state of the industry? We're going to be talking about all that and more coming up next. So stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button and join the conversations that we have about technology and how it affects our lives. And certainly the pandemic has affected every aspect, but that includes ride sharing and the entire industry, and how that is being changed and how it's going to adapt is something we're going to talk about right now. Joining us, we have James Cox, who's the COO of Routable AI. James, thank you very much for joining us. Really excited to have you here. To give everybody just a little bit of context and understanding, can you give us just a brief overview of Routable AI and what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So Routable AI is a startup born out of 4 years of research at MIT and then a couple more years of hard work. Ultimately, we're targeting the on-demand, high-capacity vehicle routing space. So if you think a little bit about the problem we're trying to solve, cities ultimately want to create more efficient public transit. You've seen plenty of examples with governments around the world trialing on-demand buses. The reality is the technology to actually to build those and make them feel convenient and still have them be low price is really complex to build. Having spent a bunch of time at Uber myself working on the Uber pool problem, I can tell you that the way Routable has approached the problem allows us to hopefully make mass transit feel a little bit more like teleportation than something you don't look forward to.
I like the idea of teleportation. I'm all for that. Until we get to exact teleportation, though, right now, looking at how things have changed and how everything's been affected, certainly, public transit's massively affected, but the rideshare market and industry is hugely affected by what's going on with so many less people. So, can you talk a little bit about the state of the industry right now, and just how you think the rideshare industry is going to manage this? How do they get out of this, and how are they able to move forward?
Yeah. So top line, I actually think this is a real time of opportunity with obviously some very real short term pain going on. Broadly, there's the most uncertainty I think that has existed certainly in my lifetime and likely in many decades before. The best way to think about ride sharing in particular, and excluding sort of the ancillary businesses like Eats, etc., I think is breaking down what is going on into use cases, right? So you think about common use cases for ride sharing being you think about the airports use case, you think about the commute use case, restaurants, people going out drinking, events, right? And then I think you also need to break down the type of people that are gonna continue to use ride sharing in different ways, right? And I think both vectors, like the type of people using the services and also the way they use the services are gonna likely change, at least in the short term. Medium term is obviously a lot harder to predict. So breaking it down that way, I think you get a bit of a sense of what's going on. um, Additionally, I think you're going to see some other interesting things with respect to how these services come back to normal, right? Things like, safety, security, face masks, trying to get riders and drivers to do that in countries where maybe they don't want to, is going to be a challenge. I also think another area that's going to be interesting is just the rationalization of these markets. You're likely going to have significantly more supply than demand for a little while, and what impact that'll have on the marketplace is going to be something to watch. Again, I'd probably finish with if you think about the ability for these companies to innovate, if you compare them to broadly the whole transportation sector, having spent 5 years at Uber, I'm a pretty big fan of their ability to innovate at speed, and I think you're already seeing that with some of the products they're releasing around the world.
And there's a lot that you just covered right there, just that changing experience. Like as far as the medium to long term, I mean that's hard for anybody to predict right now for anything, in any industry. But certainly short term, we're seeing some of those changes that you mentioned. I mean, if you look at just Uber alone, some of the requirements about as far as masks with drivers and riders wearing those. What are some other changes that, as far as from the consumer experience, the rider experience, that we could see happen here in just the shorter term that you could see being implemented?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the first one will be like slightly different types of products, right? They released something overnight. Just let me check the name of it. It's called Uber Connect, where it sort of allows you to more clearly connect with your loved ones, like send them something, right? I think you'll continue to see innovations like that. I think another clear one is recently, obviously, they took away Uber Pool, Lyft Line. That those were services that provided a cheaper way to access Uber, and for the time being, I think a movement towards people on their own in in Ubers is something that might stay for the short term. I think there's probably a number of other changes with respect to safety and cleanliness that'll happen, because you're going to want to feel comfortable in the car you're in. The final thing might be, you think about maybe people replacing some versions of public transit with Ubers. You've seen a trend towards that in China as they've come back to normal, and you may see a similar thing here. I think you've already as well seen people choosing to walk or take public transit or micromobility. Walk or drive or public or micromobility. You've seen a little bit come back faster than public transit.
Looking looking long term, but just in a more general sense, do you think this will boost or speed up, if at all possible, the rollout of autonomous vehicles and the regulations surrounding that?
Yeah, good question. Logically, you have to think it speeds it up, right? Like there's no driver in the vehicle that's necessarily safer. There's potentially less people on the road. That may or may not be true. That's really hard to predict. But like just logically, you have to assume this makes the regulation side of the autonomous path easier. I wouldn't say I was a complete expert in this field though. I was more part of the core rides business.
Well, for everybody out there too who wants to know more about Routable AI and everything that you're doing within this industry, because I think this is a great discussion. We all have so many questions, and there's so many things that can't be answered with this too. But with Routable AI, where can people find out more information about everything that you're doing about changing that experience?
Yeah. So and just to sort of make one thing clear as people look for Routable AI, it's at routable.ai. The reality here is like public transit needs to deal with these problems, right? They have, they have increased costs from having to run more vehicles with less capacity. They have cleaning costs as well, and they have their revenue demand significantly lower. So ultimately, we're here to sort of help them deal with that. We're working with a couple of those agencies at the moment in the US, and ultimately, if any transit authorities or agencies are watching this, please go to our website, routable.ai, and get in touch with us.
James, thank you very much for being here with us to talk about this very interesting discussion. And certainly your knowledge of this industry is really valuable, and we appreciate you joining us here on Digital Trends Live today.
Thanks a lot. It was great to be here.
All right, there we go. James Cox, COO of Routable AI, talking about how that ride-sharing experience is going to change and some of the things they can do to maybe optimize those experiences as we go forward. So a lot that's going to be changing with that, and we'll keep you up to date on all of that as we go through. All right, moving on here, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We've got our own Drew Prindle for another edition of Awesome Tech You Can't Buy Yet. Yes, I have to say it like that almost every time. But he's going to be talking about 3 different Kickstarter projects that he thinks are pretty cool online that you can go to right now. So stick around, back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live, and as you just saw, it's now time for awesome tech you can't buy yet. I'm Greg Nibbler. Joining us right now, we have, of course, Drew Prindle, who is going to be talking about 3 different projects that he thinks are cool and that you should be aware of. Drew, hello, number 1. Number 2, I want to talk about this first product because I'm interested in it as somebody who does play bass and guitar. The first product I'm seeing here is the Roadie 3 Guitar Tuner. What can you tell us about that one?
Yeah. So, like, as somebody who plays bass, guitar, or whatever, you're probably familiar with, like, the old school tuners that are available pretty much anywhere at this point. They're the ones that you clip onto the end of the guitar, and they'll basically sense the vibration as you're plucking a string, and it'll tell you exactly what note it is. But in order to change it, that means you have to go in and twist the knob yourself and kind of adjust it manually until it's at the right tuning. This thing, the Roadie 3, basically takes that manual step out of the equation. It's got a little auto spinner thing, so that you just put it on one of the pegs, and it'll, pluck the string, it'll hear it, and then it'll auto adjust it until it's perfect for you. So you really have to do almost nothing. But because this is the 3rd generation of this product, it's also got a couple more bells and whistles. That's what I just described is pretty much what the 1st generation did, but this new generation has a bunch of different stuff. It can handle different types of tuning. It can handle a wide range of different instruments. So it's also just faster and quieter and lasts a little bit longer. So it's better all the way around.
That's pretty crazy that it just spins it itself and does that. I do like this idea of speeding up that process. Just as someone who's played on stage with guitar players who break strings, and then you have to sit there and wait for them while they restring it and fill time. This would be a great way to get rid of some of that extra time. So I'm down with this one. So again, that's the Roadie 3 Guitar Tuner that you take a look at there. Will auto tune essentially your guitar for you while you're doing that. Going on here to the next one, I see that we've got the 9-bot kick scooter Air T15. I don't know why I have such a hard time saying that, but that is what we're looking at. So it's another scooter that we've got here.
Yeah, totally. So this is cut from Segway 9bot, which is the company that originally developed the those Segway like mall cop self-balancing little the Segways. They're the company that makes those. They merged, or they got bought by a company called 9bot a few years back, and they are like arguably the world's biggest and foremost producer of just like electric rideable personal vehicles. So they make those little hoverboards, they make a ton of scooters, they make segways.
It's like we're losing Drew just a little bit there. Hey, Drew, can you hear me?
Oh, did you lose me?
I lost you there for a second, but
all right. Well, basically, what I'm trying to say is that this scooter comes from like the world's foremost scooter manufacturer, but instead of being one of the ones that you rent and have to pay per mile or whatever, this is just designed for personal use, so it's a little bit lighter. It's still got fantastic range specs, but it's designed to like fold up a little bit better and be more convenient, so you can take it on like a bus or a train or take it up to the office with you.
Nice. Is this something, I know you've tried out a lot of these different ones before. Is this something that you would use personally?
Probably not, just because I don't know, like the scooters, like I'm more about the electric skateboards these days, but that's the only reason why. If I was going to get a scooter, I'd probably get it from Segway 9bot, just because they have such good manufacturing chops. They make fantastic gear. It doesn't really wear out. From what I've seen, it lasts a really long time.
All right, well, that is the 9bot Kick Scooter Air T15. I said it right. So we've got that one. Again, and our third one, our third thing here for awesome tech you can't buy yet is the Otto G32 Modular Gas Grill. Tell me about this one.
So there's no one feature of this thing that like makes it stand out. It's like, oh my God, I've never seen this on my grill before. Like, it's really just a collection of all of the best features from every grill that's ever existed, but all in one place. So the cool thing, I guess, about it is that it's modular, so you can swap out different burners. You can change the configuration and like the layout of the grill itself. It's got a rotisserie attachment. It's got like an insulated hood, so it holds heat really, really well. You can change the burner styles. So there's just a ton of different options. Oh, it's also smart is another thing. It's got all these temperature probes and everything, and it links to your smartphone. It's also got like the digital gas gauge or whatever, so it can tell you exactly how much propane you've got left. It just every single bell and whistle that you could possibly want on a grill, this thing has.
Yeah, it does seem to have that. I'm looking through here right now. The app, the smart app being hooked up to it, so you can control it all. Yeah, with your phone. I know a lot of people who would probably be really into this. I probably would not take advantage of this one enough to use it. I could see our pal Caleb Dennison maybe being somebody who would definitely use this. But Drew, is this something that you would utilize yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean I love fancy pants grills. The only thing is I'm not sure if I would use the like control it from your phone functionality. That just seems weird to me. Like if you're gonna grill, you're gonna like stand at the grill. You're gonna be checking on what you're grilling. It's not like you're just gonna be like at the pool, like, oh, I should turn the heat down. Like you're not gonna know. That's I don't know. But hey, I haven't really tried that, so maybe I'm jumping the gun. Maybe I shouldn't judge it before I try it. But that just seems like a weird feature to me.
See, that's the feature that I would use, so I could just set it in there and just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm cooking right now. Look at me." But either way, definitely an interesting one. So their goal was $32,754. They now have $3 million in backing. So it looks like a lot of people want to get this grill with 17 days to go. I can see that being something a lot of people want right now. Well, Drew, as always. Appreciate you being here. We've got awesome tech you can't buy yet. People can go to digitaltrends.com, read more about any one of these products. You'll also see Drew later on today for the Trends with Benefits podcast about space. That's coming up this afternoon as well. Drew, I'll talk to you then.
Always fun, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Drew Prindle right here for awesome tech you can't buy yet. And we've got, as always here on this show, so much to talk about and so much to go over with you. And we appreciate everybody who joins us. So hit that subscribe button. I always want to remind you to do that. That way you get notifications when we go live and you get to join in with what we're talking about. Coming up next, we have the Vice Provost for University of Washington's Continuum College. And that is Rovi Brannon to talk about some of the different ways education is changing and why it's important for education right now and how they're adapting to everything that's going on. Certainly an interesting conversation to be had there. You won't want to miss it. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. And I would like everybody out there to hit that subscribe button right now, whatever platform you're watching, and then you can join in on this show, which broadcasts live here every single weekday. When we talk about tech that affects our lives in so many different ways, and certainly right now in the middle of a pandemic, continuing education is an important facet of that. And we're going to discuss that and more. Joining us, we have Rovi Brannon, who is the Vice Provost for the University of Washington Continuum College. Rovi, thank you very much for being here with us today. And something we've kind of been talking to a lot of people about, and especially I'm interested when it comes to education, is how has University of Washington Continuum College adapted to what's going on right now?
Well, Greg, thanks for having me on today. It's been an amazing ride here in Seattle. University of Washington Continuum College has done very well. We've transitioned all of our programming to remote learning. All but a few programs were able to move online, which has been fantastic for us. Our students have adapted as well and have made the transition, and we're continuing on despite the pandemic and educating people in the Puget Sound region as well as the nation and the world.
Which right now, I mean, for a lot of people too, especially that may be out of work or on furlough, and as we see the unemployment rate where it's at right now, certainly people are looking for other opportunities, and continuing education is always a good way to do that. For people out there who are looking for that, what fields do you see as being something that's most valuable, especially and pertinent right now with what's going on?
Well, I think that we're seeing an immediate need, obviously, in the healthcare field. No surprise there. We see those needs across the board, especially in areas related to disease maintenance. We also see some personal care areas that are growing, and also personal finance, interestingly, in the immediate term. We think in the intermediate term, the trends are going to hold. So tech is going to continue to be a strong area. We think data science is going to be strong, and healthcare writ large will also continue to grow. It was already growing prior to the COVID-19 epidemic, and we think that's going to only continue as we move forward.
Looking at education from a few different standpoints too, and since it is online, it does seem to be actually in a way almost more accessible for some people as far as being able to get that access that maybe if they couldn't be physically on location before. For people who have jobs right now, but obviously things are in turmoil, we don't know how things are going to look a year from now. If they want to continue their education within a job that they're in, or as it might be termed, future-proof it, what would you recommend that people do, and how can they take advantage of that, even with employers also helping out with this?
Well, I think while we're all on lockdown and in our respective shelter-in-place locations, it's important to look at all of our options as we move forward. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We can binge watch a lot of different programming. I know that my family's been binge watching a lot of programs, but we like to talk about making sure you take time not to just recreate, but also recreate. So use this as a time to take some time, enjoy time with your family in that recreation mode, but also look to recreate yourself. Take an evening a week, take an online course. There are lots of low cost or free massive open online courses that are available on different platforms from great universities like the University of Washington and others that you can go and experiment and explore. But even now, with many certificate programs being online, even prior to COVID-19, the options for adults to continue learning even while they're working it has really exploded. So take that time where you might binge watch a show, take one night, go explore a free online course. If that piques your interest, look to get a certificate or other credential program that will let you future-proof your current job or prepare yourself for the next step that you want to take into a new career.
I do have to say, recreate or recreate is a very great marketing slogan that you have right there. I mean, that just makes sense, dude. It makes sense for everybody who's understanding it. Just have to appreciate that. Something else that I want to talk about too is just as we see, what's happening. We've seen some university systems already cancel fall classes in person. How do you think the university system as a whole is going to adopt to meet the needs of students, both continuing education and currently, in their undergraduate programs, if this were to continue into the fall?
Well, fortunately, at the University of Washington, we're on a quarter system, which sometimes is not good during football season, but it gives us more time to plan for the fall. Our classes in the fall won't restart until October, so that'll give us a little bit more time to assess the situation specific to the University of Washington before we move into fall. But I think more generally, what we're going to see are blended modes of instruction, hybridized modes where you have some remote where you have the ability to social distance, you bring students back together for courses, lab classes, performance classes that really require physical locations to be there. And then I think we see faculty getting even more creative with what we think about in terms of distance. It's not just about sitting in front of a computer, it's about using mobile technologies. Students are getting out using their mobile devices to collect data and actually conduct research remotely as well. So we see education continuing to expand. I think in higher education, we certainly understand that right now is a time that people are trying new things. Some of that is going to really stick. It's going to change higher education over the long term, and some of it is just going to be short term to meet the needs of the pandemic. But what we see overall is even more options opening up, especially for adult and continuing education learners over the next 5 years.
You know, looking at it from that way, too, education is all about expanding your knowledge and learning and adapting as things change. And to that extent, talking about technology, what have been some of the biggest needs and I'd say hurdles to overcome, you know, working on making this online option the main option for people learning?
Well, I think, as I said, we've seen some remarkable positive changes. And I think there have been even some lab classes where faculty might have thought you couldn't take that class online. And the mother of necessity here has come, and we are now trying new things and moving forward. So I think we've broken down some barriers for some courses that I think people thought could never be taught online. But I do recognize that we have a number of courses where being together personally and face-to-face remains a challenge. There are certain types of labs that you cannot create and simulate in ways that are effective for students. And for those types of programs, we really do want to make sure we can get students back into the classrooms and collaborating. I will say overall, and this continues to be an issue, students do report that you don't bump into other students in the hallway when you're online. You usually take your class, you get the same quality of education that you get, but sometimes that social element that you get from being on a campus and running into folks isn't there online unless you take a little extra effort, reach out. Some of our classes are using other kinds of social media tools like Slack or Microsoft Teams or other things to augment their courses online. But we think that additional social component that isn't the instructional element is one of those things that is still going to grow, and we think that's going to increase over the coming months as the pandemic continues.
Well, it's definitely interesting to see how leaders in technology and education, like University of Washington, you know, is adapting to this and kind of taking some keys from that and seeing that as maybe some way that a lot of us are going to change how we communicate in general, too. Because as you mentioned, the social impact is huge, but certainly education, very important right now. And I want to say thank you for joining us today. For those out there who are looking to continue their education or to start up a new course, what's the best way for them to apply to do that?
Well, I think whether it's Continuum College or any of the continuing education units across the country, there are often enrollment coaches. So we have people that you can get on the phone and talk to right now. And they do know that people right now have more time on their hands to talk with them, but they are happy to talk with you about your life circumstances, talk to you about the right program for you. I will say higher education today is much more sophisticated and complex than it was during the last recession. So see if you can find a coach or an enrollment coach at one of the universities in your neighborhood. Give them a call, talk to them about the right next step for you in your learning journey and in your career.
Roby, thank you so much for being here with us today. Really appreciate it and appreciate your knowledge on what's going on. Thanks for being a part of Digital Trends Live.
Greg, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
All right, really interesting seeing how that's happening. I mean, continuing education is always important, but especially right now, as so many people are looking for different ways to augment their education or maybe find a different career path. So great information right there. Appreciate Roby joining us. Coming up next, we've got a couple of YouTube stars. We've got Mason Sperling and Danny Padilla. If you have watched their YouTube videos, they are hilarious. They do all kinds of accents. They sing. They make you laugh. They do a little bit of everything. They're going to be joining us here next. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Indeed, it is time for Who's Got Game, partnering a full screen to talk up to amazing creators about what they're up to and what they can do. And we've got two pretty incredible ones joining us right now. We have not only Danny Padilla, we also have Mason Sperling, who are both here with us. Gentlemen, thanks so much for being here. I got to say, I was watching your videos this morning. They are hilarious, and I have so many questions. But to introduce you both to the show, let's kind of go to each one of you. Mason, maybe we'll start off with you here, just talking about how life has changed over the last couple of months. I understand that you've been cooking more, or can you tell us a little bit about what you've been up to when it comes to that?
Yeah, the retreat indoors has definitely made me cook a lot more. My Mother's Day present to my mom was that we have FaceTime cooking sessions, and last night we made steak and red wine risotto. Thanks so much for asking.
Nice. That's impressive in its own right. So doing cooking lessons online, showing your multi-talents. Danny, let's talk to you just about, over this last couple of months or so, what's changed for you? What's been the biggest thing that you've seen that's different in your life over the last couple of months?
Oh, man. Well, so Mason and I used to live together. We had an apartment together, and we had to move during quarantine in about mid-March, and I actually moved into my own apartment. And so I've been living alone and seeing human beings like once a week. So that's been kind of the biggest change for me. And I don't have a fully functional apartment yet, as you can probably see. Not much on the walls. I got a clock. Yeah, but really it's just my desk set up and my bedroom is all that I really have going on for me. So yeah, and I have not been cooking as much as Mason, unfortunately. That's just not.
Yeah, I'm on your side of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been using Uber Eats a lot. I'm not gonna lie. But that's moving during the middle of a pandemic. This has got to be its own challenge. That's a whole story in its own right. But talking about collaborating and just some of the amazing things that you two do together, like, how have you overcome that? What kind of tech have you been using to overcome that and to be able to work together since you don't live together anymore?
Yeah. So luckily, Mason is part of my quarantine, as they say, right? Mason lives in a house with a few other people, and I will regularly commute to his place, or he'll come to my place. And, yeah, we'll usually film kind of in the normal way that we have been, which has been pretty nice. Luckily, because we are best friends as well as coworkers, we will, like the video you can see on the screen right now, we will film that just in my apartment, and he will come to me, and I'll go to him, and yeah. So luckily for us, we actually haven't had to make a lot of changes with regards to that. I think it's been more on the production side of things, just kind of fitting everything in. But
Yeah.
see Dora in the bottom left corner. Yeah.
And because Danny lives alone and we were together at the start of the pandemic, we're able to sort of create like a little closed social circle with him in it. So
Nice. That helps then. Well, talking about some of your videos and in particular some of the accents, which I gotta admit, it's pretty incredible how both of you are able to adapt to those on the spot. Mason, for you, when people ask you, because I'm sure you get it all the time, people asking both of you, like, how do I do this accent, or what should I learn first in order to be able to do accents better? What kind of recommendations do you have for people who are looking to do accents and impersonations like that?
yeah, I would say start with thinking about your own accent, and get used to listening to yourself talk, and then get used to listening to your friends talk and look for like the tiny little differences. For example, like I say the word forward, and Danny says it like forward, right, Danny?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's like a small difference to pick up on, but if you get good at listening for those differences, it becomes really easy to learn entire accents when a coach can explain which differences you're now supposed to be listening for.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I know. Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say. I also one of the things that I've noticed that's insanely helpful is that you just kind of have to be willing to sound awful at it first.
Oh, absolutely.
Very, very often, especially I think British accent's always kind of the one that people talk about. Like if someone's like, "Hey, do a British accent," most people are way too embarrassed to just do it out of nowhere because they're way too afraid to sound bad at first. But you kind of have to sound horrible at first in order to sound good. And so it's just having the willingness to do that.
Day one is going to sound like garbage, and like you have to embrace that day one is fun because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried to pass off the accent as real in public?
Ooh, yeah, we went to, when we were moving into our last apartment, we went to IKEA, and Mason tried to convince everyone around us that he was Australian. So I don't know if it worked. We didn't ask people afterwards, like, hey, what were your thoughts on this guy's accent?
There's no survey for that.
Yeah. But yes, Mason has definitely tried it a few times. I think I've probably done it less, but I'm trying to think if there's a specific time in which I've tried to as well.
Danny goes around trying to convince people he's Gilbert Gottfried.
That is not one of the ones I can do. So it's extra bad. I'm also significantly younger.
Wait,
than
now
him.
I kind of want to hear you try to the Gilbert Gottfried because I've seen Mason do it.
Oh, I just threw him under the bus there. Sorry, Danny.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Gilbert Gottfried.
It's not even one that he ever has to try because.
No. Yeah. Mason has spared me in the videos, luckily.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you like a
Mason, what's the
brand
hardest-
new mattress?
Yes.
What's the hardest one that you've ever tried to do, Mason?
Ooh.
Oh, I find the South African accent very difficult because my ears keep picking it up as an Australian accent, so it's hard because I meld the two. And then for impersonations, I think like
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, that one's hard because our voices aren't similar. And then like actors, like real people tend to be harder because their speech patterns are more complex than like cartoon characters.
Mm.
Have you ever heard feedback from any celebrity that you've impersonated before commenting on your particular impersonation?
I posted a TikTok where I impersonated Gilbert Gottfried, and he commented, "Wow."
Yeah. Pretty good. Pretty positive. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I mean that's good. I mean,
Or
if
maybe
anything
he's
that he could have said,
impersonating
"Wow,"
Owen
is
Wilson.
Yeah.
that could be it. I could see how this all works out. Danny, I know I want to talk to you about something else too. You've got a single that is coming out. Can you tell us about that and about what what it entails?
Yeah, so I actually I released Make Believe. It's called Make Believe. It's kind of my oh gosh, how do you even describe it? It's how I feel about what I want to like accomplish in this world. It's very, I don't know, it's very deep, but it's a really pretty song in my opinion. Of course, I'm biased, but yeah, it's called Make Believe. It actually is out. I did release a music video. It was a quarantined version of a music video, but I actually really enjoyed what I did with it. I had a lot of home video footage and stuff that kind of helped bring light to what I was talking about in the song and stuff. And I had a projector going over my face of like all the video footage while I was singing the song. But yeah, it's called Make Believe, and it's one of my favorite songs I've ever done. And what's cool is that it seems like it's a lot of other people's favorites, which is a nice feeling knowing that you haven't plateaued yet or you haven't peaked. Yeah, it's
There's
really
still more in
nice
the tank.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I know some of Mason's favorites, for example, were ones that I released in like 2017, 2018. But it seems like he probably likes.
Yeah, I do think he plateaued, but that's just me.
Oh, okay. Great.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, Make Believe is out, and yeah, I love it.
One other thing I was going to ask you is just your participation in something new from The Bachelor. And I know there's a limited amount that we can say about it, but can you tell us just a little bit of details about what it is?
Yes. So I was on the new Bachelor series. They kind of added a new, this is the first season that they had done of it. It's called The Bachelor Presents Listen to Your Heart. It's it's I guess almost a singing competition meets one of the Bachelor shows. And, where an equal amount, guys, girls get together and try and find love and bond over music in particular, which is pretty cool. And I was on that. It just actually, the finale came out last Monday. So yesterday was the first day that we hadn't had an episode in a while, and it was 6 weeks of episodes. And yeah, it was really exciting, really cool. One of the funnest parts was just the amount of random people from my past reaching out to me, seeing that I was in the commercials for it before it was airing, and when I was able to publicly profess that I was in the show. And yeah, that was really, really cool. Just very validating. I think it was just really nice that a lot of people, I mean, unfortunately for me, I did not find love, but gave me a new perspective on all of it. And yeah, Mason was rooting for me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be interesting seeing the behind the scenes on that. Well, Mason, talking to you, and obviously there's a lot on the horizon, but what's up next for you? What's something that people can look forward to?
Oh, I mean, that's kind of the hard thing, right? Is I feel like now that we're all stuck inside, it's like choose your own adventure. But I'd say what's next for me is I've gotten back into like writing screenplays for like comedy shows and stuff. So my friend and I are doing that. I've been having a lot of fun with that. I'm also trying to start some classes in the mid to late summertime, some accent and dialect classes, and some like content creation classes for all the people who are trying to make more YouTube content and stuff like that. So teaching.
Nice. Actually, I do have one more question, and this could go to either one of you during this, since you are both creators and people look to you for inspiration, and what you're doing is so great. What's the one piece of tech you can't live without during this?
I mean, Zoom, but yeah.
The internet.
The internet, yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. The internet.
That's hard. I would say probably oh god, that's so hard because it just depends on what you're trying to make.
Cameras. I mean,
yeah.
Like, so we have multiple cameras that we use. One of them's kind of more of a vlogging camera. One of them's more of a the ones we use for the impersonation videos and stuff like that. But it's insane how much. I mean, because that is the only way that you can, film what you're doing and allow the rest of the world to see it. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I encourage people to document themselves as much as possible right now, if they want to do that, of course.
Yeah, because this will be so weird looking back.
Yeah, it's like one of those things.
Yeah, it's kind of like
they'll talk about it in the history books. Yeah,
this will be like me stuck inside for a year.
Yeah.
Right. Here's what happened. Here's how crazy everybody went. I want to say, thank you to both of you so much for joining us too, and being a part of the show today, and just talking about what you've gone through. It's really entertaining. Obviously, you've got millions of subscribers, but I suggest anybody out there who hasn't seen them, go there and watch them. It's always great to see what you two come up with. And thanks for being here on Digital Trends Live.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having us. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. There we go. We got Danny and Mason right here on Digital Trends Live. Really cool just seeing what they've been up to. And I really do recommend their videos are just fun to watch. And the challenges are definitely interesting, how they can manage through those things. All right. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's joining us here for Digital Trends Live. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, throughout the quarantine and beyond. And I want you to hit that subscribe button. Just hit the subscribe button, whatever platform you're on, because we always have something new and entertaining and fresh for you each and every day. And coming up tomorrow, that'll be no different. We've got lots to talk about on the show tomorrow, and that's why I want to make sure that you know that. And plus, we'll be covering everything going on with SpaceX and the launch. Maybe we'll have some experts here who will be joining the show to talk about that and more throughout the week. So thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.